This is the first live session. Hope the sound and the video is okay. So let's begin. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Welcome, all children of Bliss. Welcome to our first live session. I had created a post where I had requested you to post your questions, and the response is overwhelming. And since it is not a lecture but just a question answer session, we would restrict I would restrict the answers to bare minimum so that we can answer more questions. So let's get directly to the questions. First, we have a question from Shayan Kumar Mukherjee. My question is, what does Swamiji's "I am a voice without form" signify? What is the core meaning of this statement? It's a beautiful question. Swamiji said, "I am a voice without a form." So what comes to my mind is that we shouldn't restrict Swamiji. What he meant is, according to me, that we shouldn't restrict Swamiji's ideas to his form, that it's not something which passes away, because forms are temporary, transient. As we have already seen, in 1902, Swamiji left his body like a disused garment. So the form is temporary, but his ideas are going to be there for a long, long time, inspiring generations after generations. So even in the Bible we see, in the beginning was God, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So that Word, the potency of the Word is much more than when it actualizes or manifests itself in a form. So in that sense also, we could consider it as a voice without a form, shows the potentiality, the potency of the ideas what Swamiji represents. So don't restrict Swamiji to a mere form or a mere person. That's what comes to my mind regarding this aspect. In fact, Swamiji himself says that I may throw away this body like a disused garment, but I shall not cease to work until the humanity realizes that it is one with God. So next question. Pranam Maharaj, Anshu Mishra, Pranams. There is a question from Maddox. I'm not sure if it is a bot or if it is real. Are you self-realized? I never claimed any realization. And if you watch the first video, what inspired this channel, I have clearly mentioned that in this Kali Yuga, Swamiji says the best gift that anyone can give is the service of spiritual, the dissemination of spiritual truths. So that service I am trying in my own humble way. So whoever is getting benefited, that much alone would be my satisfaction. There is the next question from Sitaj Bag. Why is Ramakrishna Paramahansa is avatar of this age? Please give me the answer based on Hindu scriptures. Swamiji himself refrained from portraying or declaring everywhere that or glorifying Ramakrishna as the avatar of the age. He wanted us to focus more on the ideas, but that doesn't mean that he never spoke anything regarding the avatarhood of Ramakrishna. We find that he himself composed Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharmasvarupane avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namah. So there he says he's the best of the avatars. But here the question is, why Ramakrishna Paramahans is avatar of this age? So it's a topic for a long lecture. So in a gist we can say that in any age, the Yuga Dharma is different in each age. So in this age, we find two main things emphasized by the Ramakrishna incarnation. One is harmony of religions, and the other is renunciation. We see that in the other ages where other avatars had to come, they mainly had to deal with only one religion. But here we find that in this age, in this day and age, we have different types of religions, and only an avatar or an incarnation who is equally applicable to all of these religions or faiths can be called a universal incarnation. So by practicing each and every dharma or each and every faith and attaining to the highest through each of these paths, Sri Ramakrishna not only validated each of those dharmas, but also established himself as equally applicable or equally appealing to all of these traditions. So he has made himself our very own, no matter which faith we belong to. In the second part, he says, please give me the answer based on Hindu scriptures. So regarding his avatarhood, while he was alive in the physical body itself, Bhairavi Brahmani and other Pandits like Vaishnavacharan, all of them called, in fact, Bhairavi Brahmani called Sabha, meeting of all the scholars, all the Pandits, and declared, based on irrefutable arguments, based on scriptures. Mainly avatars are spoken of in Vaishnava scriptures. So she might have based mostly her arguments on Vaishnava scriptures. In Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, we find the kind of spiritual experiences and bhavas, the moods, various ecstatic moods which Sri Ramakrishna used to undergo. And seeing all that bhavas, which are unique to only incarnations, Bhairavi Brahmani declared that he is an avatar. Now, if you want scriptural references, in Vaishnava scriptures, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, there it is mentioned several of these bhavas, these moods belonging to incarnations. So when you first read the Leela Prasanga or the Great Master or Sri Ramakrishna the Divine Play, you will find, you can recognize these moods which are mentioned in those Vaishnava scriptures to be present in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. But the emphasis is not on that. It's not just the Hindu scriptures. Why Sri Ramakrishna is applicable or relevant in modern day is because of his emphasis on the main problems that the humankind is dealing with at the present age. There is an interesting incident which happened in one of the centers in America. Swami Sarvagatananda Ji, I guess, he received a guest, a professor who had come to him, and he had gifted him this Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So the professor read it, and within a few days he came back and just almost threw the book, saying that, I didn't find anything great in this. Then Maharaj asked, didn't you find anything? He said, no, this book talks only about woman and gold, woman and gold, woman and gold, Kamani Kanchan, nothing else is there. Then Maharaj was like, okay, fine. After a few weeks, he again came back. Then he said, you give me, I think 10, 20 copies, I don't remember the exact count, but you give me that many copies of this book. Then Maharaj sarcastically asked, why do you want to burn them? He said, no. There was a meeting, there was a conference which he was part of, and the main theme was, what is the most important, or what is the main problem that Americans are, the main challenge that Americans are facing. This was about 50 years ago, and that time, what is the main problem faced by the youth or that current generation? And all the scholars unanimously came to a conclusion that it is dollar king and sex queen. This is the main problem of USA at that time. And then this professor remembered, my God, this is exactly what Sri Ramakrishna is mentioning. So he wants to distribute a copy to each and every member of that conference. So that is why he wanted that book, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. I just quoted this to show the relevance of Sri Ramakrishna's message in modern times. Next question is, it is from Vidshi. My question is, can sadhana chatushtaya be a byproduct of bhakti sadhana, or is it a prerequisite? For Vedanta, it seems to be a prerequisite. What about bhakti? Very good question. Excellent question. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna again and again emphasizes on bhakti because of this reason, that Vedanta Charcha, or the intellectual, the path of knowledge or self-inquiry, demands that you attain sadhana chatushtaya first, yama, niyama, etc., all those qualities. But the beauty about bhakti is that devotion itself will ensure that all these qualities come to the aspirant. And then you may ask how to attain devotion. That is also beautiful, because as long as you desire for devotion, you can pray to God, give me devotion. You know, Sri Ramakrishna says it's the easiest path in this Kali Yuga. But there are other conditions also, like a devotee has to be very careful. It's like a tender plant of devotion. It has to be fenced by discrimination. So if you dive deep, there are crocodiles of raga, dvesha and all. There is a song where Sri Ramakrishna says this. So you apply the turmeric paste of discrimination. So bhakti should not deteriorate to just emotional outbursts. That's the point. So it should be an intense longing. And from that longing, more and more you will come to know about God. So the knowledge part is also taken care. And the more and more you apply discrimination, the more and more you will see that there is nobody in this world whom you can call your very own, except God. So you pour your heart out to whoever is your chosen deity. It's very important that you have an Ishta Devata. It could be of any religion, whichever is appealing to you. And then initially you may feel that you are imagining something. You are imagining that God, that form of that Devata, the God, is seated in your heart. But this imagination is not like imagining a flower in the sky. It's a reality which we don't experience at this level of consciousness, so we are imagining. So today's imagination becomes tomorrow's realization. This is not a fancy imagination. So there is a truth which is the foundation of this imagination. So that is why it's a fertile imagination which can lead you to truth. And that has been vouchsafed by the experience of several sadhakas in the past. So we don't have to worry about, in the scientific process of collecting data, you have proof. So only we need Shraddha just to take the initial steps. Then we ourselves will get the sufficient proof of the efficacy of bhakti. And Sri Ramakrishna also says in Kali Yuga, our body is completely dependent on food. Like how ancient sages could fast for long days or do tapasya, hardcore austerities. We cannot do all that in this yuga. So bhakti is the easiest path. Only thing we need to be careful is bhakti doesn't mean just emotional outbursts. So that is just titillation of the nerves. That will have a tremendous reaction. Swamiji says this kirtan and all, if you do it excessive and which is not accompanied with knowledge, what happens is the mind goes up, you attain a state of bhava, and then it comes down and arouses violent lust. So that we have to be careful. Next question is from Connie Cassis. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. Is there any chance you can come to Mexico? I'm so sorry. I'm right now in India. Thank you anyway for your invitation. And same person asks next question. How can you know you are ready to be initiated? Well, the urge comes from within. And it is true that when you are ready, the Guru will come to you. But if you are serious about spiritual practice, you will not wait. You will hunt for a Guru and find it. And when Sri Ramakrishna says, when you are so eager that longing for God is there in your heart, it need not be a personal God. It could just be a longing for truth. What is the purpose of my life? Or why am I here in this world? Any type of such truth-seeking inquiry comes into your heart, and there is a pang of, that wanting to dedicate your life to that inquiry. That is your purpose. Once you have fixed that, then you are ready to be initiated. Because initiation fixes the, if there are several transport methods, you are fixing, like you'll take the metro or you'll take the flight. So it's like the ticket. If you don't do that, today you'll feel like chanting Krishna's name, tomorrow you'll go to Rama, day after tomorrow you'll go to Devi. So it's not a concentrated, focused path until you are initiated. And Holy Mother Sri Sharada Devi says, when you are initiated, your body becomes purified. And speaking of purity, even modern day scientific experiments have proved that what we call as free will is a delusion. So even the thoughts that come to our minds it's linked to various factors why this thought appears in our mind. So in Indian scriptures, there are 3 particles which make up our system: Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. These are not just qualities; these are particles. So, as you become more and more sattvic, it becomes easier to dwell on higher thoughts and move Godward towards your real nature. And Rajas excites the nerves and makes you do work and be more outbound. And Tamas makes you dull, inert, and makes you more angry and sleepy. So these particles it's a play of these 3. It's a combination of these 3, our existence right now. So we have to purify the Sattva. So that is why Shankaracharya says, Tanmana shodhanam karyam prayatnena mumukshuna vishuddhe sati chaitasmin mukti karafalayate. When the Sattva, the mind is purified, the Sattva particle is purified, then mukti is as palpable as a fruit in one's palm. When you keep something in your palm, you won't have any doubt. So that's it. And next is from Y.V. Durga. My query: creators and creations are all thy manifestations of Divine Mother. how to discriminate and hold on to the true identity. It slipped away when identifying the subjects and objects. How to hold on, please guide. Pranams, pranams. So, how to hold on. So, in the first line, it is mentioned that it is thy manifestation of Divine Mother. So, if you follow that path, it's easier. Whenever you forget, the moment you realize that you forgot or it has slipped away, that moment you are back. And that moment when you're back, you pray to her intensely that, oh Mother, don't make me unconscious of my real nature. An intense prayer can work wonders. Swami Yogananda, a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, initially did not believe it when Sri Ramakrishna said, even lust can be conquered if you pray to God. He said, how can that such a simple thing be possible? Be so effective. So he was trying to go to a hatha yogi, the yogi who practices various disciplines for physical fitness, etc. So then Sri Ramakrishna again and again told, why don't you believe me? Just try. Why don't you try it out? And then he found immense benefit because he was married at that time when he met Sri Ramakrishna. So he found that prayer had immense benefit. In fact, to the extent that later on, Swami Vivekananda says, amongst all of us, he is the only one who has perfect control over lust. Means he has conquered lust. So how to discriminate and hold on to true identity? It slipped, and when identifying the subject and objects. So if you're going by the knowledge path, the attempt at trying to hold on, that also should be discerned. That is also part of the problem. It's not part of the solution. As one philosopher would put it, the observer is also the observed. The one trying to hold on, that is also part of the problem. And then, since it is the same mind which is trying to hold on to the, what does it say, when identifying subjects and objects, it slipped away when this identifying business is happening, and then you're trying to disidentify. So this, it requires tremendous energy and intensity. So it's not for everyone. It's only for a very few who have the sufficient purification of the nerves where it can direct the whole energy into observing. And it has to be an uncompromising observation where you deny or reject everything that is non-self, including the observer. And when you get established in that, and that establishment also comes, it's not a process in time. Like you need time until you realize that you don't require time. It's that kind of a philosophy. So I would suggest that you pray to Divine Mother, and more we think about ourselves, more and more we become self-centered. And the root of spiritual progress lies in to the extent we can think about others or the welfare or service to others, seeing God in all beings. So that is the most effective way in this age, as demonstrated by Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji and Holy Mother. So that is a very effective path. That's the basis of Ramakrishna order, where we try to do all works irrespective of what we are doing. Instead of catering to our small ego, we are supposed to do it as a seva, do it as a worship, not out of compassion even, as puja, worship of the Lord. And that has to be an internal thing. You need not go about doing arati to people outside, but internally you can have that attitude and your whole life will be transformed. And it doesn't matter whether you are in the house or whether you're in a monastery. Anyone can practice it. Sri Kumara Kantirava, he says, is it possible to divinize our relationships after it has gone toxic and it's boiling. Kindly help. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not able to see the live chat. If these are the questions which came in earlier, so let me just check if there is any way I can see the live chats. Please bear with me a moment. Let me just okay. Okay, there are a plethora of questions here also. Let me just get back to that question. This is the first time I'm doing a live session, so please bear with me. So he says, is it possible to divinize our relationships after it has gone toxic? It's a very valid question, very important question. First is, relationship is something which we are dealing with on a daily basis. We are having relationship with others, and even when we are alone, most of the time we have a relationship with ourselves. Whether we feel good or about ourselves, we feel bad about ourselves. So we are always in a relationship until we actually realize. Only when we are self-realized, we stop having a relationship with ourselves, but we are being ourselves rather than having a relationship with ourselves or with the world. So until then, is it possible to divinize our relationships? Yes, it is possible. And it is possible only when we get out of the way. What I mean is, for example, you have your wife or your husband in front of you. Usual human behavior is we try to pigeonhole people, we try to judge, and that is fine to a certain extent. That is how the mind works, and that is why all the developments in the material world has come into being, because of this ability to have knowledge, understand things, understand people. The problem is when we try to apply it to things, it's fine, but when you apply it to people, we are doing a deadly mistake, because even with things it is a deadly mistake. Why? Because life is always fresh. It is in the present moment. When we say we understand something, we are comparing it with our ideas in the past. So when I see my husband or wife through the eyes of the past, through the judgment which is already in the past, we are not seeing the real person standing in front of us. And so when we are not dealing with the fresh person in front, and that person also reciprocates like that, unconscious behavior we can say, if that person is also behaving like that, then toxicity in relationship is inevitable. Only when we have, through intense sadhana, through meditation, through discrimination, discernment, at other times, when we have established ourselves to be neutral. This requires practice. It doesn't come in one way, but we can take small baby steps right now. When we are being in this moment, when you're dealing with a person or a situation, we are being neutral. We are respecting the aliveness of that particular person at that moment. And then this reactive, whatever that toxicity which is all in the story in the mind, these things, when it comes up, you will notice it. And then you have a choice whether to be like that person who was always reactive, or be a field of awareness. And then the other person also will be forced to react or respond in a way which is higher than their normal response. Because normally people, it's like a billiard balls, you react and the other person also reacts, and then it goes on in an unconscious way. So when we bring in this more and more, this dimension of alertness, of being neutral, you're automatically suppressing or diluting your ego, and you're being there as a presence. And then you handle the situation. If that person is yelling at you, you will not feel like, or even if you feel like, you will recognize that and you have control whether to yell back or to react. So most of the time you will be able to respond through that by aligning yourself through with the universal intelligence, not from your limited sense of ego. In a previous video I had mentioned this, like it is like life is like a river flowing swiftly, and then you take a bucket of water out of it and keep it, and after 3 months it is a stagnant pool of water, and you expect it to remain as fresh as that flowing river. So all our ideas about people, about things, about situations are all like this bucket of water which we collected from the past. It has its place in transactional dealings, but when it comes to emotions, when it comes to persons, we need to be able to clear it. It's like flushing. Just flush it. Every day be fresh. We have that capacity. Each one of us have that. We have that capacity. It's not an utopian idea. It can be practiced. To whichever extent you practice, to that extent you will immediately find benefit, and even the other person will recognize. They'll find that you're providing them a space to be themselves. That is why pets are loved. The dog doesn't judge you like a person, so you feel attracted to that dog. You let down your guard. You're not always carrying that guard of being somebody, like a mask. Okay, I think it's going on. I can go on and on. We have more questions. As someone new to spirituality, it's from Turkish Indian. As someone new to spirituality, how do I find which type of yoga should I follow? Love from Turkey. Thank you, and love you too. Which type of yoga? In fact, yoga is basically means union with your divine nature. So rather than separating it as this type or that type, you experiment, because each one has certain tendencies which are predominant in their lives. So you will find that most often you will need a mixture of all the 4 yogas: Jnana, Bhakti, Karma, and Jnana. Jnana, Bhakti, Karma, and Raja Yoga, that method of sitting in meditative posture and controlling your prana, etc. Those things require, Raja Yoga requires specific kind of diet, etc. So modern times, most of us are not qualified, else we may get side effects in terms of nervous disorders, etc. Purification of nerves is absolutely necessary, but the rest of it we can combine, and it's a synthesis. It's not like you be a Raja Yogi at this time, then you be a Karma Yogi. No, it doesn't happen that way. The whole thing becomes molded into a synthesis, and you become a synthesized union of all these 4 yogas. To what ratio you mix and match, that you will find out in your own life as you progress. So what is appealing to you, you start with that, because the most important thing is interest. If you can develop interest in it, interest in truth, people may think, why should it be so difficult? But it is it's the rarest of things in the world. People are easily carried away by what is being brought by these temporary excitements in the outside world, that they lose sight of truth. So as someone new to spirituality, ensure that you love what you do. In fact, Saint Augustine, I think he said, love and do what you will. Because the motive is what matters. So if you feel more inclined towards devotion, it could be in any religion, as long as you consider that object of devotion to be divine. It shouldn't be any material or a person, because persons have limited, you may imagine them to be all your all in all, but it will start showing its physical limitations, and then you will lose that shraddha or faith. So that is why you imagine the highest ideal possible and start loving it. It could be even impersonal aspect of God, If you're a Muslim, it could be Allah. So loving Allah with all your heart. So many followers of Islam have reached the highest through that path, just like any other religion. Antik says, can I practice Brahmacharya remaining at home? If yes, how? It's a good question. Brahmacharya basically means the path towards Brahman. So there are disciplines which empower us in our path. We know what is to be done, but we cannot do it. That kind of things won't come if you have these disciplines. So whether you are at home, more than that, what matters is what kind of thoughts you allow in your mind. Or are you in control of your situation all the time? So a certain level of alertness is required if you are in home or if you are in monastery. Throughout the day, you should be able to know what is happening to your mind. Just need not judge yourself, just keep an alert. It's like a watchman. Always be on your guard. And the moment, with experience it comes, that moment some bad thoughts or moment anything like that comes, you will notice that slowly you start liking it, or there is a tendency to slip, and it doesn't stop unless you are alert. In fact, Vivek Chudamani Shankaracharya compares it to a ball dropped down a staircase. It just keeps falling. It doesn't stop at the first thing. So if you are inadvertent, pramado vai mrityu. So inadvertence is death. So if you are alert, then it should not be a problem. You will be able to practice and convince yourself first why it is required. And it's like a muscle memory, You have to keep on drilling it in your mind, because nature doesn't want you to do that. Nature wants to use our body, mind, everything for its creative purpose, reproduction, and then continuation of species. Like what Darwin says, the evolution is applicable in that state. But to evolve spiritually, we are going against the natural current. We are swimming against the current. So we have to be extremely careful. And we have no choice, because if not now, after thousands and thousands of births, we have to do this at one point or the other. Why not now? So these were the questions which had come in earlier. Now let me just check at the live chat. How can I realize Swamiji's ideas? There's a question from Jiru Ajay. How can I realize Swamiji's idea? Swamiji himself says how you can realize it. First of all, you keep studying Swamiji deeply, because your mind will follow what your conviction is. So once you're convinced about something, you will not have to ask anyone how to do it. For example, you are taking a cup of tea, and somebody says there is poison in it. You won't say, oh no, I have already lifted, so I have to drink. You will immediately drop it. You don't need anybody else to come and convince you that time, because you know that poison is not good for me. So similarly, these ideas, when you know that that is true, that kind of conviction when it comes, you will not have to ask anyone how to practice it. It will become part and parcel of your life. Next question. Thank you for answering questions. You're welcome, most welcome. Sir, please say how to stay focused. Aruna Varshini. Again, it is similar to asking how to create interest in something. Because once something is interesting, you don't go to a movie theater, and if you're watching a very wonderful movie, you don't need any training how to stay focused. If it is a crime thriller or a suspense thriller, you will not ask anyone how to remain focused. So you have the capacity to focus. It is just a matter of making it impersonal. That is, you should be able to put it wherever you put it, you should be able to focus there. So that is why Swamiji said, rather than collecting all this knowledge, first I will train my mind. You can start with anything which you like. So that is why daily meditation, etc. helps. So first thing is, wherever you are interested, there you prolong the amount of the duration you can focus. And then it becomes more like it's like a tool. You sharpen that tool and its efficiency increases. Mind is matter. It is just refined matter. So anything with this concentration and anything, it's like a skill. You can develop it. You don't become a muscle builder, bodybuilder in one day. They struggle extremely hard in the gym. Same way, you have to do it with the mind. And then wherever you put it, the nature will reveal its secrets. So that's the advantage of concentration. And how to stay focused, you can even have, if you are completely helpless, try having some physical means. For example, before you start that work, for example, you decide that for 1 hour, next 1 hour I'm going to study. Then remove all possible distractions from that, physically removed. If you have your notifications popping on your phone every now and again, then it will be difficult for you to focus. So even physically removing all distractions can help. If you are in one room, you just keep it in another room, all those distractions for the time being, and then focus. Initially, the mind will revolt, but it's just a matter of habit. Anything is possible with habit. Ankit Tiwari says, what to do if one doesn't feel much for materialistic desires but have to plunge deep into the samsara for one's family responsibilities? Again, family is never condemned in the Indian scriptures or anywhere in the Indian tradition. In fact, the very idea of family is a sense of sacrifice. The promiscuous nature is sacrificed when you marry. And see, spirituality is nothing, simply put, spirituality is less thinking about yourself and you're thinking more about others than yourselves. And if you're sacrificing your whole life for the family responsibilities, as long as you hold on to dharma, that is legitimate desires, you go ahead and fulfill. And as long as you don't have to go through illegal means, which will all contract your mind, you can feel that. The moment you do something bad, initially your conscience will prick. But when you keep on doing that, your conscience will slowly die out, and then you will become like a hardcore or hardened criminal, sort of. So even in thought, word, and deed, you pour your heart out and consider your family as the divine. Seeing the divine in the family, you serve them. Your family responsibility can be worship. Everybody has a responsibility. There are no irresponsible people, except kids maybe. We all have responsibilities towards ourselves, towards the society, towards God. Or if you don't believe in God, to find out the truth of existence. Why the hell am I here? Just a spark, born the other day, dying the other day. Is that it? And just rushing from the birthplace to the grave. That cannot be it. If that is the thing, there is no point in anything at all. Might as well sacrifice ourselves for others rather than achieve anything temporary in this life. So even if you don't feel anything materialistic desire, pray to God. Intensely pray to whichever chosen deity you have. Intensely pray to reduce the financial or family pressure. And Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a person who is intensely feeling the lack of time to devote for spiritual practice. And if he prays to God, God arranges everything. Just like how a pregnant woman in the household, in Indian culture, the mother-in-law reduces the girls or the okay, I think there was a disconnection. So slowly, the tasks are reduced. Sri Ramakrishna gives that example. Same way, when you pray intensely, automatically you will feel you'll get the strength and time to do spiritual practices. And don't consider samsara to be something. If you have a choice, take that choice. If you don't have a choice, then surrender everything to God. When did this initially begin and why? Okay. How did this Jivatma, which is considered to be pure consciousness, come under the influence of ignorance? Okay. The only way, as Swamiji has put it, Swamiji has already answered this question. These questions assume that there is a reason, there is a causality, there is a reason for that root cause comes under the domain of Maya. Beyond Maya, you cannot ask this question. So, as to when did this initially begin, assumes that there is a time going on outside of Maya, and at this particular point, whole thing came into being. That whole cycle of time, space, and causation is within this ignorance. So, this question becomes nullified when you realize that you were always pure consciousness. Even right now, when I'm thinking that I'm a Jivatma, there is nothing else other than God. God alone exists. Nothing else is. Oh my God, what happened? Where are the other questions? Okay, let me see. I request you to have lectures on Upanishads or Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Well, I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I have responsibilities here. We have to publish audiobooks, so whole day goes in recording, etc. So whatever time I find, I try to share some videos. Okay, one thing I forgot. With regard to Avatara, this book, Sri Ramakrishna and his unique message. This is a wonderful book which describes several types of harmony which Sri Ramakrishna practiced and why is he relevant and what is unique about his message. Sri Ramakrishna, his unique message by Swami Ghanananda. It is available in the Advaita Ashrama. It was first published in 1969, I believe, from the Vedanta Center of UK. So you find one chapter where there are sevenfold harmony. The Akbar's glorious dream was fulfilled by Sri Ramakrishna that way. The harmony of religions, harmony of systems of philosophy, harmony of the paths of spiritual disciplines, harmony of the personal and impersonal aspects of God, harmony of types of superconsciousness, harmony of the sects and denominations upholding different Ishta Devatas, harmony of the duties of the various classes and of individuals in different stages of life. So all these different kinds of harmonies in Sri Ramakrishna's life you find described in this book. Sri Ramakrishna and his unique message. It's available at shop.advaitashrama.org. It's the online store. It's the online store of Advaita Ashrama. Okay, let's see what other questions are there. Gracias, Swami. Gracias. Kali Rudolph asks, when a yogi is aware of repetitive phenomena around him, even herself's actions and speech, how can one come out of this? How to get away of the bodily laziness if one is not the doer? Is this possible? As I mentioned before, this bodily laziness is because of predominance of Tamas. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are the particles which make up this whole constitution. So we can improve it. We can change by controlling the kind of thoughts. Ahara does not mean only food. In Sanskrit, the word ahara means what we take in through all the senses. So purifying all what we take, not just some vegetarian diet. Whatever we take inside should be pure, should be contributing to our goal. So is anything that makes you Okay, I think we got this. Swamiji says anything that makes us think that we are separate from others, that is sin, and anything that makes us feel that we are one with the rest of the universe is virtue. So cultivating virtue and reducing the erroneous or ignorant perception regarding all things. So slowly, our body will become more sattvic, and then you will feel that freshness. That we, as a body, we have limited energy. So where we put that energy is very important. We can either put it in different continuous streams of thoughts and be anxious about something and dissipate all the energies in various frivolous things, or we can gather all that energy and dive deep within, and then there is a freshness. That is why even Brahmacharya, practice of Brahmacharya, gives you that freshness. So you don't feel tired all the time. It's all because of lack of that focused energy. We need to be able to gather all our energy and focus it on the task, rather than dissipating it in various different channels. We have limited energy until we realize our real nature, our capacity in this material body, in this physical body. We have limited energy. Is very important. Even thinking, continuous thinking, dissipates so much of energy. Even conflicts. You have a thought, immediately you say, oh no, this thought shouldn't come in my mind, or oh no, this shouldn't have happened. So there is a conflict. You should consciously try to reduce conflicts in our daily life. And being the witness of that helps in reducing the conflicts. And that also gives you more energy. So it's a slow process to come out of it. It's not one day job. But the more we are aware, awareness is like this sulfuric acid. It burns through all this. So the more and more of these laziness or anything, that becomes turned into awareness, and it will shine more brighter and brighter. So that is the beauty of this. Okay, I remember him. He had asked a question which I did not want to make it public because it was something personal. He was asking for take a break and get trained in spiritual life for some months. Where can I go? Major 29. I would request you to get associated with any of the centers. Any of the centers nearby. And it's not easy to just because you have mind and body is not going to cooperate all of a sudden. So it has to be a slow process. From wherever you are right now, you have to convince your mind, and that conviction takes in the practical realm, it takes the form of certain amount of discipline. So your distractions, etc., as I mentioned before, take some physical help. Physically dissociate or physically distance yourself from such distractions as internet or any sort of addiction. Physical help, external help can be a very good starting point. You can even take help from your whoever is your family members, to tell them, look, this is what it is, and I want to get out of this addiction. So they can help, because anytime you acknowledge this is the situation rather than masking it in your mind, then the mind has nowhere to go. So slowly it becomes your servant, because it knows that it is not conducive to long-term benefit. Rohit Sinha asks, can you shed light on Swamiji and Jamshedji Tata conversation, your interpretations? Well, this is a live talk, and it's going to be a long one. Your interpretations in context of values, scientific temperament, and love for nation. Swamiji in one place says that rather than becoming clerks or chakars, he says, that servants, that servitude, that service sector, we should, even district magistrate, he was saying, it is just this attitude of service that should go. We should be able to produce, have creative faculties developed. That is what Swamiji wanted. In fact, he wanted India to be independent in production, manufacturing sector. That is why he found that Jamshedji Tata's, taking steel and doing something original. He found it in in alignment with what he thought about it, what Swamiji thought about it. Scientific temperament. Scientific temperament is wonderful, but it should not be a light-hearted or what you call superficial method of rejecting everything and being casual about everything, the superfluous, in the name of being scientific. That should not be the case. In whatever I'm talking about traditions, when most of the youth, when they don't want to follow tradition or anything, they just try to become scientific. But a real science is when you question things to the root, and not to deny something, but to find out the truth. That is the real scientific temperament. And science need not be just applied to physical science. Science, the scope of science should not be restricted that way. Even in the realm of spirituality, you should be able to question. But there is something called Shraddha, the initial steps, that even in scientific world, the people follow their supervisor or the advisor or the faculty member. That much Shraddha they have. If somebody says, no, I don't believe in Einstein, it's not a matter of belief. You have to listen to what he has to say, and then you take up and try to prove his theorem or whatever. So similar approach should be there in religion as well. You take up what the Shruti says, that okay, you are all Brahman, you are always free. Okay, is there any truth in it? Let me find that out. Then they say, okay, follow this. Okay, let me try and follow that, and then see the truth, see whether any truth is there in it before going and attacking every tradition as bogus. Sharada Kuti Maharaj Pranam, what is meditation in its truest sense? Meditation in its truest sense. Meditation is one part of the whole process of Ashtanga Yoga. Meditation is not the end, Samadhi is the end. So meditation in its truest sense is you become identified with the object of meditation. Even though it's not Samadhi yet, there is a little bit of effort involved, where you are conscious of that effort. That is why it is meditation. And when you completely wipe out all traces of that separate person trying something, then you are in Samadhi. Brick Battle says, why was this in my recommended? I don't know. I am sorry. I have not done anything to promote this. Shumana Ghoshal says, how can I stay always in Brahman? We are always in Brahman because there is nothing else exists. So it's the question of finding out what masks or what ignorant perceptions of point of views we have and eliminating it. We have our own conceptions about, it's an age-old thing going on, that we are a limited human being and all these things. So find out the truth behind that and then remove all that. We don't have to become Brahman. We just have to remove all our misconceptions about it. Okay, it has been a 1 hour live. Let me see, some more questions are there. I am Wesley Lawrence Curry. How are you today? I am good, thank you. How are you, Wesley? Jaypal Grace, a great day. Please, Maharaj, don't tell to think everything's Brahman, because most of the time present situation don't help. I'm not asking anyone to think that everything is Brahman. It's just the fixing the ideal, and then we have to work from where we stand. And the present situation doesn't help, I understand. And there is no shortcut other than try being neutrally present in every moment. So slowly, as and when the situation is bad or good, these kind of judgments will slowly fade away. And then you are with the reality. Most of the time, the reality is neutral. Reality is neither good or bad. If it rains, it rains. It's not, when we say, oh, okay, I don't like it, then we say, okay, it's bad. I wanted to go out, now it's raining, then it's a bad situation. So there is a story associated with every situation, and then it becomes good or bad. So we can consciously try to remove this story aspect and be neutral. And that itself brings tremendous peace of mind. And then when you sit in meditation, you have the same mind. So throughout the day, if you are consciously trying to regulate the conflicts in your mind, then it helps in the meditation also. And meditation in turn helps in reducing those conflicts throughout the day. And as I said, it's easy to judge people and easy to live in the past and deal with the situation. But we have to get out of that rut of dealing with the present using the past. Whatever understanding or intelligence we require, it will be there. The past is not going anywhere, it will be there. You can use it in transactions. But dealing with human beings with that past is the cause of most of our miserable situations that we encounter in daily life. Okay. Arpita says, Swamiji, how do we overcome false mental and physical abuse by your close relatives? How to maintain inner bliss and stay calm? First thing I would recommend is stop judging them. And when you are neutral, you get the power to do the right thing. For example, if something is if there is a physical abuse happening, you don't have to be there facing all that on. You don't have to make a story in your mind saying that, okay, this is what is happening or this is my life. Nothing doing. Be in the present, then the avenues will open up. You will know what to do. Either you walk out or you resist. Whatever you do, do it with full concentration and attention, without any judgment, without any reaction. The moment you react, you already lose, because you have brought in your past instinct to take over. When you respond, then you are taking more effective actions. And nobody can tell us how to act. That will come naturally at that point. And take whole responsibility of your actions. And you don't have to judge yourselves or others. It is the present situation, that is the fact in front of you. Then you deal with it. Either you have to walk away from that situation, or you have to resist or fight. Whatever it is, it won't be a problem. It will just be a situation where you're dealing with it when you have this attitude. Of course, it is difficult, but it is not impossible. We have to cultivate when you have less friction. When you are normal, that time you cultivate this attitude, and then when friction comes up, even if you say some few words or this thing, it will just go away like water under the bridge. You won't have any that ill feeling cultivated inside. So as I said earlier, flush all the emotions and be fresh every day. Even in a relationship, you should be able to reset the relationship again and again and again. So that is why you can reinvent. It will be as fresh as the first time you people met. In fact, in one Christian monastery, I think Desert Fathers, there they used to say, if you want to live with your brothers in harmony and peace, be the way you first came, how you were reacting, the same way you do. So even in brotherhood, it happens like familiarity breeds contempt. So this familiarity business is nothing but storing, pigeonholing people. So that has to go. And then you are eternally fresh, because our real nature is freshness, ever fresh. Reality is ever fresh. And how do we forgive them for repeated abuse? As I said earlier, do not be the victim, because that is also a story. If you say, I have to forgive, then you're already assuming that there has been a mistake done on me and this is what is happening and then I have to do something about it. Rather than that, just be with the situation neutrally. So if you have to take some steps, take those steps. You can say in no uncertain terms, back off. But don't have any feelings, because that is the whole point is that. It's just their unconscious getting triggered by your unconscious. So only when both of them cooperate, only then this drama can happen. And as a spiritual aspirant, we should be very clear that we do not want drama, we want peace. And we should always, again and again, choose peace over drama in any situation. That itself will solve so much of the issues. And take a neutral stand and be with facts. Don't believe anything that your mind creates. Like mind may say, oh, this shouldn't have happened to me, or this is happening to me. Those are all stories. What is the situation? Somebody is physically abusing me or throwing some words. It's just words. What if they were telling it in a foreign language which you won't understand? Then you won't feel that much. So it's all about how you take it. I know it is difficult. It's very easy to sit here and give you advice. I won't be able to tell you what exactly to do. You will have to take that call. But being neutral helps. Does the blissful, Shantanu Dev says, does the blissful state of being within and detachment from all materialistic pursuits be possible in a hectic and irregular lifestyle? Well. When you say irregular lifestyle, we have to ask ourselves, do we have a choice to make it regular? Because anything irregular dissipates so much of our energy. And anything regular gives you that much more energy to focus on inner well-being. So regulation can help. But if you cannot help it, that your routine itself is such that it is irregular, then you can work it out within that. Because mentally and physically, when the body is accustomed to a certain clock, biological clock, then it becomes easier, less friction. And we have to always work in the line of least resistance in spiritual life. Time is limited. We don't have much energy. Kushal, please interact with us quite often. These practical ideas are so helpful. Thank you. Professor NK asks, what do you mean by meaningful life? Meaningful life is when you feel content, and when you are content and you already feel like a blessing, you don't have to feel. The people around you, if they feel that you are a blessing to humanity, that itself is success, and that brings meaning to life. And the real meaning of life is to find out who we are. That can be the only meaning if you want to derive any meaning. Else we have to become philosophical and say that it's just the play of the Divine Mother. Just a play. And enjoy the play. Don't try to find meaning. It's a mind's trap to find meaning in everything. In a play, in a drama, there need not be any meaning. All this becomes serious when we don't realize that we are just actors in this drama. Then we take it so seriously. All right, I think we can stop here. It has been a long. Okay, Professor says, what is the importance of Bhagavad Gita in it? Bhagavad Gita gives you the gist of the entire spiritual truths which were discovered before it. So Bhagavad Gita gives you the impetus to you can get the clarity, and whatever practices you need to do, everything is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Like Abhyasa and Vairagya. These are the two things which can take you completely on the highway in spiritual life. So all those things, Sthita Prajna Lakshana, all those chapters in Bhagavad Gita, all those things can give you pointers. So it can even guide you to the whether you are in the right path or not. Everything is mentioned. And Arjuna has asked several questions on our behalf, so that also helps. So let's stop here. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you all for joining. Have a blissful day.